Welcome to the preview for Atom RPG, which released in Steam Early Access. The game is developed and published by the aptly named Atom team, yes indeed, and they were kind enough to send me a key for this preview. Now I did a first look for the Kickstarter demo of this game. The game went on to have a successful Kickstarter and a pretty smooth early access release. The game gets inspiration from games like the old Fallouts, the isometric ones, Deus Ex, the Stalker games and more. And it will be rather evident when you go through Atom that it's a love letter to the best the genre has to offer. There is a manual saving system and you can save whenever you want, but for some reason it is limited to 5 slots only. Hopefully the limit is removed in the final version, or at least becomes much bigger for people that want to have a lot of different save files. But first things first, the bombs fell and the world ended. In 1986, you are one of the survivors. You belong to a group called, wait for it, Atom. Your group's mission is to find, restore and secretly introduce old and new technologies to the survivors. You are sent out to the wasteland to find a missing expedition that went to explore a pre-war bunker. Perhaps predictably, you start the game getting ambushed and losing all your stuff, but not your memories for once. Gameplay-wise, the first thing you will do is create your character. The character creator offers a few portraits and the usual skills and stats most RPG fans know and love. Along with strength, endurance, dexterity and intellect, which should be self-evident, you also have things like attention, perception basically in most other games, and personality, which apart from influencing speechcraft and barter skills, also will make people likelier to open up to you in-game. One specific instance, for example, is the leader of the bandits, which has a dialogue locked behind a personality check. Each skill and characteristic has a tooltip in which you can read what it does and what it affects. As far as my playthrough went, I did not see any useless skills. All of them appear to be important. What is strange is that you don't get any points from leveling up as far as your characteristics go. Not even one every few levels. The only way I found to raise a characteristic was through item usage, and I only found one of those. There might be more of them, of course. Most skills, again, should be known to everyone that plays this sort of games. Because your character has gone through specific training in your storyline background, you start with a sender number in all of them, which you can then level up in character creation and every time you gain a level. Note here that there is a mechanic for gambling and there are various gambling minigames in-game, cards, dice, etc., which are influenced by it if you are looking for a way to make some money. Getting in-game, the game divides into 2 different areas. One is the Overworld, where you travel with your character as a giant through the map by selecting a destination. Getting close to point of interest will sometimes prompt you to enter the area and explore it. It seems like a perfectly adequate mechanic for travel to me, though I would like to see the speed in which you do so increased, or introduce a mechanic like Pillars of Eternity, where you can move faster, while time also passes faster. There are also some random encounters that happen while in the map section of the game, like getting ambushed by bandits, mutants, or meeting with traders. Second is the main gameplay area. Individual maps you can go around exploring, like cities, the bunker, abandoned houses, or any other areas. These are smaller maps, sometimes with multiple levels. Here is where all the gameplay happens. Fights, fishing, yes you can fish and food is actually important, exploration of areas, meeting characters, all happen in these smaller maps. Combat happens in the turn-based method. You have a certain amount of action points and depending on your weapon or action, it depletes them until you either end your turn or the turn ends automatically if you have exhausted all of your points. All weapons, both melee and ranged, have multiple modes of use. For example, knives can slash or stab or aim. And for your ranged weapons, you have things like single or burst fire, and also aiming of course. Speaking about aiming, that not only gives you a better chance to hit an enemy, but you also select the area you want to target, as usually, depending where you hit will produce different effects, different damage, and will have a lower or higher chance of success. Actually aiming for a low chance headshot saved my life a couple of times, so pick with care. Beware, you can get addicted depending on the item you use. For example, I found myself in a tense combat situation and I had to use 3 stimulants, healing items, in a row, and that got me the addicted effect, which has quite a few drawbacks. There is plenty of loot to be had, some important, some not so much, but feel free to take everything that is not nailed down. You will need money to get weapons and, more importantly, ammo for them, and healing items, including anti-radiation, stimulants, etc. There is a weight mechanic though, so you will have to juggle a bit what you can carry and what can sell well. Thankfully, there are different kinds of backpacks which will give you more capacity, so you can carry more things before becoming encumbered. There are quite a few hidden areas which you can find throughout the game, so exploration is heavily recommended if you want some of that sweet loot and backstory at times. One of the things I would like to see is merchants getting new merchandise and money as time passes. It is quite easy to sell enough items to clean out the merchants in both items and money, and they don't seem to get either ever again afterwards. There is also a crafting system which seems similar to Divinity Original Sin's 1. That means you get a few slots and try to combine things together to make something new. I did not find any recipes, and through my playthrough did not put enough time into crafting, so I do not know how useful or not it can be. There is also a perk system, but unlike Fallout, you do not just pick a perk every few levels. You gain perks through interacting with other characters. For example, there is someone that taught me to dissect mutants and gain parts from them that I then could use to fish or sell. One complaint I have, and I would love if the developers fixed it, is that I feel the camera is too close to the character. You can zoom in and out, and zooming in is fine, but zooming out does not go as far as it could, making it hard to explore areas and hard to see at times. One of the main strengths of the game for me was the setting. It's nice to explore something else than the usual American cities. Atom is filled with Eastern European lore and myths. Atom also does a good job with the world setting, making it unsettling at times, and have you feel you are actually exploring something outside of the norm, which I'm not going to spoil for you. Sound-wise, the game is perfectly serviceable, but apart from the theme song, there is not enough music in the game, like Fallout, which I would really like to see more of, especially since, again, the different setting makes possible music selection much more interesting. There is no voice acting, so be prepared for a lot of reading. The writing itself can range between pretty good and interesting to wait, what? This might be a localization issue. There are about 10 hours worth of content in the early access version at the time of this preview. The game is also rather cheap, about $15 or euros, so quite a bargain. In conclusion, if you enjoy isometric games and post-apocalyptic ones, this is one of the more unique ones due to the setting and world building. It is very polished for an early access version. I only encountered a couple of bugs in my playthrough, and the price is actually low enough to be a no-brainer. Get it and get lost in a post-apocalyptic USSR.